Hari Om everyone. We welcome you all to the storytelling session by Mr. Paul and Akila. I know storytelling is you're conveying the events in words and images. And critical elements of storytelling includes plot, characters, and narrative point of view. In India, especially, we used to have Purana Pravachans, Katha Kalakshetra, or folk narratives like Burakatha, Bindu Patil. Stories were narrated using those ancient methods. Now we have here for this afternoon Paul and Akila to give a brief background about Paul. Paul was born in Brazil, but not the country, Brazil, Indiana. His mother was Indian, but not Indian, American Indian. So with those two confusions cleared up, what else can I say about our guest? He was a Foreign Service officer for 40 years with the US Diplomatic Corps. He has traveled to more than 100 countries over that career, including a number of visits to India. He was assigned to a dozen overseas embassies, the longest periods being 7 years in Japan and 7 years in Mexico. So he must be knowing many languages, I guess. After retiring from the US State Department, he has spent significant time with the Toastmasters International, serving as District 27 Governor in 2010. Recently, he has been involved with expanding Toastmasters to emerging market countries, more recently to Burma, I think, Myanmar. He helped with the chartering of our Toastmasters Club, our Chinmaya Mission Toastmasters Club, which I'm also a member of, and it's really great. The experience is really great. Thanks so much for chartering that club. And he says that he's pleased to be back today to join with me in offering a storytelling workshop for our teachers. Let's welcome distinguished Toastmaster Paul White. And I know, Akila is a familiar face here. She doesn't need any formal introduction, but still, for this afternoon, for the sake of it. She is a Chinmaya member, and she was one of the key people who started the Chinmaya Mission Toastmasters Club. She is the area governor for Toastmasters for our area. She loves to speak, and you must really listen to her. I've heard her speeches, they are so, I don't have words to express her speeches. She strongly believes that everyone should try at least a year of Toastmasters program. For those of you who are not joined the program yet, I'm there. I'm experiencing it. Please join. I want all of you to experience that experience. And she's been a Toastmaster for 3 years now, currently working on advanced speaker and leadership levels in Toastmaster. She ardently participates in Toastmaster contests, Toastmaster events, and she tries to be better at speaking every time. I don't know what else she has to accomplish in speaking. She's being very modest here, but she's a very good speaker. I welcome Akila here.
She has set the bars very high now. You have to keep it.
Okay. How many of you are teachers? Okay, there's some teachers here. As human beings, we are all wired for stories. We just heard about the folklore tradition in India, a wonderful oral tradition of telling stories. Stories are in every language, for every culture, for adults, for children. Stories are ubiquitous in our society. It's the way that we pass on our traditions, our culture, our history. It's a way that we provide lessons to children about life. So stories are very important. And children especially love stories. When a teacher says, it's story time, and you push back the chairs and the children sit on the floor, you can see their eyes sparkle because stories are something that children love. When you have children of your own, you find out that at bedtime, children love to hear stories. So it's something that is natural to human beings everywhere in the world. Stories are like a magic carpet. They can take you anywhere at any time. They can teach you things that you would never experience in real life. but you can start to learn how to deal with emotions or hate or fear, all of those emotions that you can sense and feel in a story. You can learn about them in a safe environment. Stories really touch the heart. That's why they're so important. It's not the brain as much as the heart. When you touch the heart of someone, that's where learning begins. When you hear a story that touches your heart, that touches your emotion, that's when you really start to feel, learn, and grow. And that's why storytelling is important for teachers. Because teachers, when they use stories in the classroom, can take children beyond where they are in just an academic setting and take them to a place where they learn stories that they will remember forever. Don't you think so, Louise?
I agree totally with Paul. I'm sure we all agree on that. Stories can be told in different places. As parents, we tend to tell stories to kids at our home. Students or kids gather stories from movies, from TV shows, from different other venues, maybe on stage shows. Today, our focus is on storytelling in a classroom setting. Now, why? Why is storytelling in a classroom setting important? Storytelling in a classroom setting is important because these stories that you're going to tell to your students, when those students use them in the right way, they act like small keys with which they can open a door to a better understanding. It could be a better understanding of the concept, or it could be a better understanding of life as such. Wouldn't you agree? Especially at Chinmaya Mission here, we tend to tell stories about Ramayana, Mahabharata, all those stories that carry on to their life. Don't get me wrong, storytelling is not just for the sake of these morals and other things. There are other skills that students learn once they listen to these stories. Would anyone like to tell one skill that they learn when they're listening to a story, other than the moral and cultural values they may be getting? Anyone? Any one skill that they gain from listening to a story?
Listening skill.
Listening skill, very important skill, right? They get the skill of listening. And another one would be problem-solving skills, right? And something else could be emotional and coping skills. And sometimes they even get grammar, writing skills, and vocabulary. All this happens with storytelling. In a nutshell, if I have to say all what I've said, I said this before. Whatever story you're telling into a classroom, it should not be for the sake of telling the story or just for the sake of letting the time pass. But you are giving them a life lesson. That's what I think. Don't you agree?
So today we're going to focus on two sets of speaking skills, or Toastmasters skills. We heard a little bit about Toastmasters, a wonderful organization. There's so much that we can cover, but we've limited it to two different areas. The first I call voice mechanics. That means varying what we say as the pace that we speak at. You've probably met people that speak very fast and very hard to understand. So pace is very important. Another is pitch. When we speak high or low to give feeling. Another is speaking with power. How do you speak with power? And for me, really important is to learn how to use pauses. If you want to be a really good storyteller or a really good speaker, you have to understand when and how to use pauses. The other thing that we're going to talk about is movement. How do we move on the stage to maintain interest? What about gestures? How do we use our hands? Facial expressions. All of those things, eye contact, are important. So we're going to talk about those two areas, vocal variety voice mechanics, and about movement. In discussing those two areas, we may touch on many other different areas that are important for storytelling. But those are the two areas that we're mostly going to focus on. Exactly how are we going to organize this? What are we going to do?
What Paul mentioned right now is, in a nutshell, quick Toastmaster program right here. What we are going to do is, we are going to, first I'm going to tell a story and then Paul is going to tell a story. So what I want you as audience, is to look for points that Paul mentioned. Voice mechanics, the variation in the pitch, like you can go high and then low, or the movement. Those kind of things a speaker does when they speak. I want you to focus on that. Basically focus on the whole speech that we both are going to give, the storytelling we both are going to give. The three things that you can actually note down on is what worked for the story. So I will tell a story first, and then you can focus on actually what worked with the story. What would you use in your classroom? When I'm saying what worked in the story, you can think about, I told my story and I liked the way the speaker varied her pitch, which really helps me grab attention of the students, which I think will help grab attention of students. That's something that you would use, right? So these three things, I want you to know what worked, what would you use in your classroom setting, and what would you do different. Perhaps you don't like the way the speaker was moving around, and you don't want to do that. You want to do something different. So these three main things, it would be good if you could note that down while we are speaking, so we could have a discussion after we are done with the storytelling workshop. If you need pencils, paper, anything, put this down.
Good, so we're going to start with a story by Akila. It's a modified version of an old folk story from India. And she's entitled it, Can You Make That Jump? Can you make that jump, Akila?
My story is about a villager. A villager called Ramu. Ramu was a woodcutter. He used to go into forest, cut down wood or collect firewoods and bring it back to his village. That's how he made his livelihood. Now, the village where Ramu lived, right on the border, right before it expands to the forest, there is a river. A river that's about 6 feet wide. Every time Ramu goes into the forest or comes back from the forest with the firewood in his hand, he has to make a big jump across that river to get to his village. Every day Ramu did that. He had no trouble. Now Ramu lived in a village that was governed by mighty King Vikrama. Vikrama was a king who loved to reward his subjects whenever he saw them doing something mighty. Whether it be a good deed or a physically impossible deed that someone did. So once, this mighty King Vikrama was going in his chariot and he saw Ramu with firewood in his hand, jumping across a 6 feet wide river. He was amazed. He stopped his chariot, got out, and went to Ramu. He told Ramu, Ramu, that was an amazing thing. You jumped across that river 6 feet wide with firewood in your hand? Ramu bowed down his head and said, Oh, mighty king, I am a poor woodcutter. That is how I make my living. I have to jump across that river every single day. The king, being mighty, said, Okay, Ramu, if you say you do this every single day, so let me tell you one thing. If you jump across that river one more time, I will give you a bag of 101 gold coins. Ramu was happy. 101 gold coins? That means he does not have to work for the rest of his life anymore. Without thinking twice, he took that opportunity and jumped and landed right in the water. Wrecked and humiliated, he walked back to the king. King asked, Ramu, you told me you do this jump every single day. How come you did not do this today? Ramu replied humbly, Oh dear king, every time that I make this jump back from the forest, I only have the weight of that firewood in my head. But today, I had the weight of the 101 gold coins too. The king smiled at his wisdom. He has a wise subject in his kingdom. With a happy heart, he handed in the 101 gold coins, and Ramu accepted and lived happily ever after. The moral of the story, my friends, is that whenever we do something, do not carry the extra baggage of worries, of other people's expectations, of problems in your head. Just do it for the very reason you're doing it. You have been doing it. It may be you're driving back home, or you're doing your work at office, or you're teaching in front of your students. Do it for the very reason you signed up to do it, for the very reason you're doing it all the time long. Don't do it for competition. Don't do it for others' expectations. Don't do it for anything else. Do it for the pure joy of it.